much. Now we'll call on Mr. Lucas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And continuing on that line of discussion, Dr. Khan and Dr. Gallagher, in Oklahoma, my universities tell me that they have 2,000 open engineering positions, jobs in the state, more than the local engineering departments can currently produce. Continuing down this course about how industry and academia, from their perspective, can work together to meet that demand. And we're talking about Oklahoma, 2,000 more engineering jobs than they can create the engineers for. Would you continue to expand on where you were headed there?
Well, I think there are a number of approaches we can take, and each has a different, each situation is different. So with that context, some cases we as an industry are going to have to look and say, what level of education is required to fill a certain job, or can we retrain an individual to that specific job? But then if we're going to retrain them through an accelerated program to be able to do the job, who do we partner with? What will it take? How do we do that? I'll give an example. We have challenges filling jobs with food safety just to do auditing. Can we partner with a university? We at PepsiCo recently just partnered with the university and said, can we do a 12-month training program? In order to fulfill their needs, it's not a 4-year degree, but can we in 12 months get them ready for that? There are different models, that's one. The second is, can we train people in the job to get academic credentials? So while they are fulfilling their day job, what will it take for them to get the advanced credentials, and which universities can we partner with? So I'll give you those two as examples, because many of these are working people with families. I have many employees, in particular women, who are at a career stage where early in their career they did not go and get an advanced degree. Now the children have grown up, but they can't leave the workforce. I can't afford for them to leave, and they can't economically do it. What will it take to get a graduate degree or a master's in engineering on the job, using our own laboratories? Maybe these are all ideas. I think we have to work together to explore those, but I'll defer to Dr. Gallagher.
Dr. Gallagher?
Your question reminds me, I remember when I was in the Commerce Department and I was talking with some CEOs, and they sounded just like your question. There's this huge demand, we can't find this talent. And then the next day I was talking with some labor economists, and they said, no, that's not true. I said, they said, those guys aren't right, because if you look at the salaries and other things, we're seeing no signs of a workforce shortage. And of course, there's data that suggests that as well. I think this mismatch we have about we all want to be market sensitive. Universities want to produce what's needed. And there seems to be a lot of evidence that those market signals are not very good right now. One of the things that may be happening is that fields like engineering that are actually quite broad, when industry says they need engineers, they're actually talking about a specific type of engineer. And there's a gap between sort of the general degree and the actual skill set that's needed. And so there's a gap between the educational space and the workplace. The one obvious place where that can be addressed is to bring those two worlds closer together. And that's why I said this partnership model was built when I went to school, the companies that were doing R&D were right in our labs collaborating with us. There was a lot of shoulder rubbing. And I think whether it's the undergraduate level or up through the graduate and professional training level, we have to make sure that those two worlds sit side by side. That's probably the best way to address this gap.
In my remaining time, to anyone on the panel who would care to discuss it, in my opening statement I mentioned the need to better explain the value of the federal investment in science and technology to all of our fellow Americans. From the role I sit in on this side, I have to justify every penny when we deal with, as authorizers with the appropriators, when we deal with the various taxpayer-sensitive groups back home, when we deal with the citizens who come to our town meetings. Just for a moment, if anyone would care to touch on this, how we do a better job of explaining the story, the connection that science has to the real world for our folks back home, the real people.
Let me give two very easy. One is look at the competition. If there wasn't value, then just about every emerging country and developed country is aggressively competing for R&D centers. As a global company, as a global organization, wherever I go, the first question I get is, will you build an R&D facility in this country? And that takes a very high priority, because R&D investment not only creates the number of R&D jobs, but the domino effect and knowledge transfer and the ability then to leverage it into the economy comes right at the top of the list. So that's number one. The second is the fact that as we look at all of the new jobs that are being created in this country, as we speak today, the vast majority are on the back of new technology that was actually developed in this country. The internet, developed by the federal government, the digital age, everything, the examples I gave you, all came out of technology that eventually became industries.
Panel's been very insightful. I thank you